Hi, continuing to explore the subject of the culture of honor, which is the culture of heaven that we're learning and embracing and reproducing here in our lives. One of the principles that we learn is that relationships do have different priorities. We rightly and correctly prioritize the relationships that we have in our life, which ones are more important, which people deserve more of our time, more of our attention, more of our affections. That's the correct thing to do. Not all relationships are cookie cutter. In Mark chapter 3, verse 14, there's a verse that I believe applies to this and helps us understand some principles here. This is when Jesus was actually choosing his 12 disciples that would become his 12 apostles. And in verse 13 says he went up on the mountain and called to him those he himself wanted, and they came to him. And verse 14 says, then he appointed 12 that they might be with him and that he might send them out to preach. And it goes on from there. But the point is that Jesus himself prioritized his relationships in a very clear and strategic way. For Jesus, his first relationship was with God the Father. He would steal away at times in the night or in the morning, and he would spend time in prayer with the Father, and that was his first priority relationship, always. But then Jesus prioritized from there, and he chose these 12 disciples that it says that they might be with him. And so we know that from reading the Gospels that Jesus really spent the bulk of his social time with these 12 men, and he was pouring himself into them. He was investing himself into them. And there was thousands of people around him with many, many pressing needs and problems and needed healing and all kinds of things. But Jesus rightly prioritized with these 12 men, and he poured himself into them. They got the best of his time, and he gave them the best of his time and his attention. How does this apply to us? Well, Jesus never married, of course, and he did not physically have children in the earth. So this was his priority in building his church and his kingdom. However, for most of us, the first relationship is, of course, going to be with God. God is first priority in my heart and your heart. But then after that, if we get married, then the person with first priority after God, the person with the next priority in our life would be our spouse, husband or wife, and they're the person that now rightly deserves that larger slice of the pie of our time. They deserve that time, and we prioritize and we give it to them. And the relationship has more cost, but the more cost, the more value. And so when you give to the person that you've made marriage covenant with, when you give them that big slice of your time and your affection and your heart's devotion, and then what's going to come back to you is a rich, rich marriage relationship. It's going to bring the results that you want that satisfy your heart. And then if you have children, the next priority of our time is going to be our first child, our second child, our third child, however many we have. And those children then rightly deserve our next priority, the next big slice of our time and our attention and our heart's devotion. That's correct and that's right. And when we give those people the attention that they rightly deserve now with their place in our life, it just brings back rich, rich rewards that they end up greatly loving us and honoring us, and the relationship is really rich for the rest of our lives. It's a beautiful thing if we give that relationship the right priority. What a lot of times the mistake people make then is beginning to see the spouse or the child even as an inconvenience or someone who is sucking away time from me or sucking away my energy when I want to go out and have fun or do something else, go have entertainment. But in the culture of honor, we give the time and heart devotion to the people who most deserve it in our lives. And the greater the cost, the greater the reward. When we prioritize in that way, we end up with rich, rich relationships. And then we do give a much smaller slice of our time to our friends and to the people around us and our communities, and that's good and that's healthy. But the culture of honor says the people most important in your life get the best of your heart and your time, and it pays off richly.